Barry Trotz has a deadline in mind for changing course this season. We'll tell you when it is and if we think there's a chance the struggling roster can turn things around before time is up. Plus, there are two words that don't mean what some Nashville Predators fans think they mean. We're going to explain on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy hump day, everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Wednesday episode welcoming any first-time listeners and, of course, giving a shout-out to our fantastic Locked On Predators insider community and to our everydayers. We love talking Nashville Predators hockey with you each and every Monday through Friday. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Yesterday, we heard from Barry Trotz on 102.5's Stillman and Company. He gave some more insight into his personal timeline for this Nashville Predators team. Also talked about the Wedgwood for Annunen trade and how the staff dealt with a frustrated Steven Stamkos. We're going to talk about all of that on today's episode. Plus, Preds back on the ice tonight against a top team in the Eastern Conference. We're going to preview a very tough matchup tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Before we dive into all of that good stuff, we do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, Emma, we heard from Barry Trotz last night on Stillman and Company. He comes on and Jared Stillman says all the things out loud and Barry Trotz just answers all the things out loud. So it's always good listening to kind of check in with Barry Trotz. And let's be real. It's a little hard to find a silver lining with this Nashville Predators team. But Barry Trotz, man, he worked it. And he did point out that the Predators have points in 8 of their last 11 games. And a lot of these games were against very good teams: Colorado, Edmonton, Tampa Bay, Minnesota. They got the win over Winnipeg. That's a really positive spin, Barry Trotz. Do you think, Emma, this team is on the verge of turning a corner, or is this just fool's gold?
I don't know what on the verge would necessarily mean. I mean, this season, I think, has taught us that you can really never tell with those kind of things. It's always like one step forward, 2 steps back. But I mean, I think what that does tell us is like, it's maybe, I hate to be this person. I hate to say, guys, it's not that bad, but it's bad, but it's maybe not as bad as it feels right now, because
and it feels rotten. But remember,
it does.
Feelings are like farts, but go ahead.
And feelings are valid, especially, you know, I think that we were all expecting this season to be very different so far. But again, I sound like a broken record here, but I keep going back to last year, and this team sure as heck did not look like a playoff team.
No.
And then look what happened. And so I'm not saying that, I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen. They're going to turn it around tomorrow and they're going to win their next 50 games. Like, I'm not saying that, but like, anything's possible, I guess. Trying to keep an open mind.
Yeah, it is really hard to keep an open mind. Like, just so everyone is clear, we get that. It's really hard to keep an open mind. But when you step back and kind of look at the facts, you know, they're making some progress, but you're so far in a hole right now. The progress needs to come pretty quick. And look, Barry Trotz laid it out. He has a timeline. And this is what Trotz had to say on the radio. He said, we've got to get going. We've got to collect some points and we've got to go see if we can get back in the race here. I think we've got till Christmas to find out if we can get ourselves back within punching distance. So there is a timeline where Barry Trotz is saying, okay, let's see where we are at Christmas. And then he went on to say, look, if at Christmas time we are out of it, we're going to start bringing in some more of these young players. We're going to start plugging them into the lineup. He mentioned one that I would really like to see in Nashville, Reed Schaefer. So there is sort of a timeline for when maybe it's time to call it. But he went on to share the story of when he was the coach with the Capitals the year that they won the Stanley Cup. And he was saying, look, we were out of it. We didn't think we were going to win another game. And then all of a sudden they went on this run. They got themselves in the playoffs and they won the Stanley Cup. You know, we've got Ryan O'Reilly sitting in the locker room. St. Louis was like last in the league in January, the year that they went and won the Stanley Cup. We just looked last season. The Edmonton Oilers were out of it, y'all, out of it. And then all of a sudden they make their way into the Stanley Cup finals. Now, look, here's what I will say about all of that. I think that's the exception. I don't think it's the rule. That is rarely what happens. More times than that, the teams that are in last place at Christmas time are teams that are going to finish in the bottom of the league in April. But you look at this Nashville Predators roster and you see the talent on this roster. And it's like one of those where, man, I don't want to speak with hope because, you know, when hope is disappointed, it just tears you apart. But this is a team that doesn't really have a talent issue. I think this is a team that has like a mental block issue. And even the veterans, I think, are suffering from that. So I'm with you. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I think just as easy as not come Christmas time, it could be over. And we're going to see kind of a pivot to bringing in and getting experience for more of these young players. But Emma, it could happen. It's happened before. So what has to happen for Nashville to be that exception and maybe turn this around? Like, what do they need to do?
Yeah, I think that's the hard part because, like you said, we're not saying they're for sure going to turn it around, but there is absolutely still enough time for them to turn it around. And I know that people don't want to hear that and people are upset. And I get it. You should be upset. This has been a horrid start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
There is still time. I'm not saying, they're for sure going to turn it around, but if they could. And they've kind of painted themselves into a corner here. So it's going to be harder. They've made it harder for themselves. But I think that, going back to what you said, this team doesn't have a talent or a skill issue. I think you look at a team like, I don't know, for example, I hate to pick on them, but like a team like San Jose, for example, they are just not there yet. Like they are very much a rebuilding team. They don't have the skill and the talent, and the experience to, kind of build that championship caliber team right now. And that's okay. But, that's a skill and a talent and an experience thing. And that's stuff that like you can't turn around in a year and you can't fix it in a year.
Right.
This, I think with it being, and I don't mean to downplay it because the mental struggles and the mental obstacles are very real. And they're very serious and important and should be taken seriously. But I think that they're things that, we've seen that all of these players, we've seen what they can do. They have not done it together this year. And it's so hard because it's like you look at a guy like Steven Stamkos, for example. You hear all the people, oh, he's nothing without Kucherov and Point and everyone around him. Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't buy that because a player like that does not just become average in one off season. It doesn't happen. And so it's not that his skill has declined or anything like that. It's just there is an adjustment period here, and it's harder for all the reasons we've already talked about the frustration and the individual struggles that these guys are having. It makes it harder to work together. But I think that I go back to what Andrew Brunette said. I forget which game it was, but he said, eventually, like the goals, they tend to come in bunches. Like once you get the
True.
scoring chances, they come in bunches. And I know that a lot of people do not want to hear that right now, but it's kind of, you think eventually the dam is going to break. And you have to keep grinding and keep plugging away. And again, I go back to last year. I said the same thing. I was doubting Andrew Brunette and his system. I was like, look, I mean, for how long can you keep saying, well, we're doing the right things, but the results aren't there? And then they turn it around. And so it's like, I think the only thing you can do right now is really stay the course. And when I say stay the course, I mean take the positives from you open the show, started talking about, like there's some positives here, and Barry Trotz brought some of those up. And I think that, there has been some good in these games. And so when I say stay the course, I mean build on those, and I know this is so much easier said than done, but don't get discouraged by the lack of results, because again, we didn't see results last year either at the beginning of the year. And so I think that it's just perseverance and stick with it, and keep your confidence in yourself individually and as a team.
If this team can turn it around, the muck that they are slogging through now, if they can get to a point where they turn it around, this time period that has been excruciating will be so valuable, in the sense that they are going to get it. They're going to get the level of work that it took to get out of it. They're going to get the mental fortitude that they've built going through it together as a team. So there is potential for this team to work out of it and really bust out. Like, I love that you said the dam will break. And I think if they can build some momentum, there is potential for this team to do something impressive. I also think there is potential for this team to crash and burn if they cannot get out of their own way and find a way through it pretty soon. Coming up, one of the players that we have seen dealing with that frustration, Steven Stamkos, clearly frustrated after that Tampa Bay Lightning game. Barry Trotz gave us some insight into how the staff handled that situation. He also said some things that were pretty interesting about the acquisition of Justus Annunen. We're going to talk about that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it is all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, and it's all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, we saw a clearly irritated, frustrated, on the verge of squealing like a stuck pig Steven Stamkos before he caught himself after that Tampa Bay Lightning game. Look, this is a clip that has gone viral. People are talking about how frustrated Stamkos was. We kind of all left the locker room saying, okay, what was he going to say? Was he going to name names? Was it going to be a player? Was it going to be a coach? Like Steven Stamkos says, I've got some ideas. What are the ideas? Well, I don't know that we got any specific clarity on what it was, but Barry Trotz did say that Steven Stamkos and Andrew Brunette sat down on Monday and talked. And this is what Barry Trotz had to say about Stamkos. He said, there's things that he believes in that can help him as a player. Maybe something that we're not doing that he thinks that we can. I know they would have talked it out. Barry Trotz went on to say some of his best ideas when he was head coach was when he would sit down and he would listen to his staff, or he would listen to his players. And he referred to that coach player relationship is more of a partnership. We're just going to play a little speculation game. This is not reporting, friends. This is speculation. But if you are Steven Stamkos, what are you most frustrated about? What do you want to see changed?
I just think that, it's hard. It's hard to say because he himself is in completely uncharted territory. This is a completely new team, new organization, new system, new everything for him. And so if it were me, I would try to keep that in mind and think, okay, like, does this feel bad because it's new and it's different, or it's just bad? Like, it's hard because no one likes change. And I'm not, again, not reporting, just saying, like,
this is all speculation, y'all.
It's possible maybe he himself is struggling with the new, and that's why, he stopped himself from saying something, because maybe he acknowledged, like, hey, maybe this is a me problem. But also, at the same time, the other side of that coin is that he's got a ton of experience, and he would know, like, he knows what it takes to, to build a winning team. And I think that whether it's about, I'm not trying to say that he should do, that he's trying to tell Andrew Brunette how to do his job or anything like that, but it's more just like, if you're the player, if you're the guy on the ice and you're thinking, hey, this system isn't like this play isn't working, this whatever, like, I don't see him as the kind of guy who would want to name names or call people out, but I think that he would hopefully be comfortable enough to speak up and say, like, hey, for me, this isn't working, and here's why, or here's what we can try to do to fix it.
Anybody in any job probably can relate in some way to the situation that Stamkos is in and that Andrew Brunette is in. Because yes, Andrew Brunette is the head coach. But like Trotz said, sometimes you've got to view it as a partnership. Everybody is better in their job when their quote unquote boss says, "What do you need to be successful?" And you can say, this is what I need to be successful. This is how I need to be managed. This is what I need from you as my boss. Here is what I need from my coworkers that will make me more successful. And I was glad to hear that Stammer and Bruno sat down and had a conversation. I do not by any stretch of the imagination think this is the first time it's happened. I think there is a lot of communication going on, especially with the situation that the Predators are in right now, with everybody and Andrew Brunette. I think, from Yossi, the leadership for Marchessault, for Stamkos, for Shea, because, this has been a tough adjustment. I think there's probably a lot of communication going on, but I do think there's something valuable about allowing Stamkos in this new situation with a new coach and new dynamics, where he has been the guy with the answers. I love that he said that before. It's like, I was the guy in the room with the answers. Now I'm the guy in the room asking the questions. Sit him down and say, what do you need to succeed? And I think the follow-up question to that, which we can just let hang in the air awkwardly, is, do we have what you need to be successful here? We don't need to touch that. That one could be a whole episode, and maybe we'll pencil that in for later on this week or something. But
well, I mean, clearly he believed that they did, because he was a free agent. He didn't have to come to Nashville,
it's a good point.
Like, I think, and he said this, like, clearly he wanted to go somewhere that had a chance to win. And so he saw what he believed he needed to be successful. And I understand, obviously, he wasn't in it yet. He wasn't in the system. Things happen, and you kind of have to adjust on the fly sometimes. But I think that he wouldn't be here if he didn't think that they had the ingredients to, to help him be successful. So
that's a fair point.
And so I'm not saying that, like, that excuses the way that they've played and the way that the season has started. But I'm just saying that, you would hope that he would, be willing to kind of trust the process a little bit here, but also impact the process himself by, like you said, saying this is what I need to be successful, or this is what I see, my observation of what is not working, or what could be done better.
Yeah. And look, nobody, not Andrew Brunette, not Barry Trotz, not Steven Stamkos, not everybody who's like, I told you so, you all may have guessed right. There is no circumstance under which I think anybody, the most educated NHL pundit, looked at this team and said, you know what's going to happen? Every single player from veteran to new guy is going to suck out of the gate. Like, this is a freak thing. This is a freak thing.
Right. And like you said, with the whole, oh, look at the 2019 Blues, look at the Oilers last year. They could do it. And yes, they're the exception, but it still happened. And like, you have to look at this team like that too. This is not normal. No one would have thought this would happen. And again, the whole, like, a lot of times, the head coach ends up being the one that has to fall on the sword when things go wrong, because that's his job, to kind of just be the face, like the guy who takes the hit. And that's just what happens, because you can't fire an entire team, or you can't, put all the blame on a whole group of people. It's easier to place the blame on the figurehead. And so I think that, looking at this team the way it is now, and all of a sudden everyone is just turned on Andrew Brunette and say, oh, he's the problem, because do you think Andrew Brunette single-handedly made Steven Stamkos bad at hockey in 2 months?
What amazing life skill.
like
that would be incredible.
That's witchcraft if he did that. And so I just think, again, I am not here, I'm not required by any means to say nice things about Andrew Brunette. And we have also spent plenty of time criticizing Andrew Brunette for the way he does his job in certain areas. But I'm just saying that people are very quick to change their tune on certain things. And it's like, well, wait a minute. All these things that worked last year, they're not working now. And they should be. Like you said, this is a fluke thing. Everyone,
this is a freak thing.
Yes, which should indicate that hopefully, God willing, it won't last forever, because it is a fluke thing. And I'm not saying just sit back, it'll pass. But I mean, you have to have that level of faith that, like, if you do keep trying and keep doing the right things and keep playing the game the right way, it will pass.
Yeah. Absolutely. We learned another interesting tidbit, and I love this from Barry Trotz. He talked about the Scott Wedgwood trade for Justus Annunen. And Emma, you and I texted after this, and we were like, so you don't say, Barry Trotz. Justus Annunen, they have been looking at this Finnish goaltender for a while, haven't they, Emma?
Yeah, Barry said that they tried to get Annunen in the Yakov-Trenin trade last year with Colorado. Obviously didn't happen. And understand why Colorado certainly would not have wanted to part with a goalie, of his caliber, especially at that stage for that team. But the Predators scouts have been high on him for a long time, which Predators scouts interested in a Finnish goaltender. I don't know.
Say it isn't so.
Is the Pope Catholic? Like, I think it's like, it just makes total sense. And again, this also tells me that, not to bring up another recently departed goaltending prospect from the Predators, but this tells me that the decision on one Yaroslav Askarov had been made a while ago, which is why I think that the situation with him perhaps could have been handled a little bit better by Barry Trotz. And not in the sense that they should have kept him, but honestly, in the sense that they should have traded him sooner than they did. And then it wouldn't have had to get to that whole messy situation at the end. And so I think that that's just like, Very interesting. Very interesting. But
File that away.
yeah, but it's good. It's like it tells you like there was a plan here, that it wasn't just like, all right, get rid of Askarov and let's
Hope
bring
for the
in
best.
Yeah, exactly. And let's go get a 32-year-old who will be gone in 2 years. Like that wasn't the ultimate plan. And I think that's what people were maybe concerned about. That like, what's the plan, Barry? Well, that was the plan. And he made it happen. And it didn't really quite happen according to plan, but or like according to schedule, maybe. But I think that a backup goalie swap, again, on paper, it does not sound like much. It's like, why are we even talking about this? But if you think about it, these are the types of trades and the types of moves that GMs are paid to make. It's like, because you're looking ahead, you're looking at what's not just what's going to help your team now. If you just needed a backup goalie, then keep Wedgwood. That's fine. But like, Colorado needs more help right now. Nashville needs more help in the future. And so I think that this deal absolutely benefits both sides. Colorado probably benefits more in the immediate term. Nashville's going to benefit more in the long term. And I think that anyone who is upset about losing Askarov should feel a lot better about that now that Annunen is in the mix here.
There is one big problem adding Justus Annunen to the roster. Coming up, Emma and I are going to talk about the issue when it comes to goaltending in that locker room. Plus, we're going to preview the Toronto game, and we're going to talk you down over 2 words that got some bowels in an uproar. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to do at Prize Picks is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch the winnings roll in. It's the way daily fantasy sports should be played. It is not you against 1,000 strangers. It's just you against the Prize Picks projections for your favorite players in your favorite sports. Prize Picks puts its members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can withdraw your money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So check out all the action at Prize Picks. Run your game. Emma, I completely agree with you about this goaltending swap being really beneficial for the Nashville Predators, but it has caused an issue in the locker room among goaltenders. Here is the problem, y'all, and this is something we're going to be wrestling with. UC Saros, better known as Juice. Justus Annunen, also known as Juice. How are the Nashville Predators going to fix this hot mess? First of all, shout out, because all of the fans in the game can just every game yell Juice every time there's a save. But how are we going to differentiate these two? We've come up, there's been a suggestion made.
Well, I do like this. I thought about the Juice thing because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and Heath Miller was a long time tight end, and every time he made a catch, all the fans would go, Heath. And then when he retired, then even now, I mean, now it's gotten better because they have Pat Freiermuth, and so people will go Muth. But for a while, they had a kind of a rotating cast of tight ends in there. No matter who it was, whenever he made the catch, it would be Heath. And I always kind of felt bad for whoever the guy was, because it's like, oh, it's not even his name.
Yeah.
But now,
sorry, Brandon.
Yeah, right. It's always going to be Juice. Like, it's great. Yeah. But I love, so Alex Doherty asked Juice, I'm sorry, UC, not Eustace, about this conundrum that they have now. And he said that I think Jonathan Marchessault, a fellow short king,
that's right, fun-sized Marchessault.
Yes, along with UC Saros are, on the smaller size. And I think it was his idea to call Saros Little Juice and Annunen Big Juice. I think that's so adorable, which it's a little bit of a mind bender because you would think that Saros would be Big Juice because he's like the big, the starter.
Yes.
But
Yes.
stature wise, he is very much Little Juice. And then Annunen is what, 6'4", so he would be
There's
big.
a lot of Finnish goaltender in those pads. Watching him at
Yes.
practice today, there's a lot of big juice there.
Big Juice and Little Juice. I'm like,
Yes.
I kind of love that.
It's so great. But again, you've got to get your mind around we're talking stature, not experience. So focus on stature if you want to nail down whether you're talking big juice, little juice.
Yes.
We are likely going to see Little Juice, is my guess, in net tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Emma, when I look at this game against Toronto, goaltending to me is going to be such a huge part of this game because Anthony Stolarz has been redonkulous for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, stop yourself already. He's 8-4, 2.23 goals against average, 924 save percentage. This goaltender is playing so well. That is very intimidating for a team that at best hits posts. So for me, this is the game, if the Predators want 2 points, where they're going to have to figure out how not to hit the posts and really hope for the best, because I'm telling you, Toronto, this goaltender is hot right now. When you look at this Toronto game, what is the thing you think will make the biggest difference for Nashville?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you look at Toronto, you don't typically think of Toronto as being a defensive-minded team, or a strong goaltending team, at least not in recent years. But I mean, if you look at them right now, this is not an incredibly high-scoring offense for Toronto. I think they are smack in the middle of the league. They're like 15th in goals per game. They average about 3. Which again, it's still more than Nashville.
Better than us.
But and so I'm not saying this by way of like talking trash about them. I'm just saying that this is if the Predators need to be very, very tight defensively, and if they are, then and with the goaltending as well, then they can feasibly shut this offense down. It's not like a Florida or a New Jersey or a Washington even. It's a little bit more they've been more defensive. I think, like I said, 15th in goals for, they're like 3rd in goals against. So it's like they're very good at limiting chances too, which again, that's the problem for Nashville, because a lot of times
we can limit our own chances.
Like they don't need help.
Like, just sit there in the space, Anthony, and we'll just shoot around you.
Yeah.
Literally around you.
Yeah, we'll find the goalpost. Don't you worry. So I just think that this is not, they did just get Austin Matthews back from injury. Interestingly enough, though, this is a team that tends to almost, as a collective, they tend to play better without Matthews in the lineup. I think, it's kind of a mental thing of like, we've all got to step up because our star is not here. But of course he did come back, didn't miss a beat, scored a goal in his first game back. They are coming out. I think they've won, again, he's only been back for 1 game, but this team has won 9 of their last 11. They're trying to stay hot. Nashville needs to build some momentum. And so I think it's going to be 2 defensive. Well, I should say it's a defensive minded team in Toronto, or maybe not defensive minded, but that's sure how they've been playing. And then I think, Nashville needs to try and break through there somehow because they have the goaltending. They just need to be tight defensively and try to create those chances offensively. This
could be a really big game if there is some way that Nashville could get a win. This could really be a springboard game. But again, I think it's going to be really tough. This is going to be a tough game for the Predators. Before we wrap up, though, Emma, we do want to address something that we've just kind of noticed, and we want to clear up a misconception about a 2-word phrase that just has some Predators fans' bowels in an uproar. And that is the phrase optional skate. There was an optional skate earlier in the week. It was tweeted out who was there and who wasn't there. And the ruckus and the brouhaha, the brouhaha just evolved from there. Where are the leaders? Where is the leadership? Why isn't this person out there? They have sucked lately. Emma, do you want to talk about what optional skate means and what it doesn't mean? Let's just clear this up.
Yes, as someone who was formerly employed by the team and spent a lot of time at them, and by the way, I had to be at every optional skate too. So it's a thing. It happens. Every team does this.
Mm-hmm.
And let me start though with what it doesn't mean. What it doesn't mean is the guys who aren't on the ice are at home playing video games and smoking cigars and clipping their toenails. That is not what's happening. If there is an optional skate, it means that there are team events happening at the rink. Everyone is physically there. Everyone is present. If they're not on the ice, they're in meetings with the video coaches, or they are getting treatments done, or they are, they're working out in the gym. They're all there and they're all doing something. Just because they're not on the ice does not mean that they are not doing anything to improve themselves or better themselves. And that also being on the ice is not the only way to get better.
Yes.
And I know it's a bad look. It always, when the team is doing poorly, oh, why aren't these players at the optional skate? You know what the optional skate is primarily for? I mean, no one will say this, but this is really what it is. It's for the guys who don't get to skate a lot during the actual games. So that's going to be your healthy scratches, your backup goalies, your young players, your rookies. Those are the guys who participate in the optional skate because they haven't gotten to skate much. Mm-hmm. And the guys who have been skating a lot are taking care of their bodies, and they're still working to better themselves, whether it's in the video room or in the coach's office or the mental skills office or the gym or the weight room, the nutritionist meetings. They're working, and it's there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I think that being on the ice is not the only way to skin this cat. And so I just needed to clear the air, because I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, they're not practicing. That's the problem. Believe me, they are practicing. And I hate things like that just get blown out of proportion so easily when a team is doing poorly. Mm-hmm. Optional skates happen every day with every team in the league. They are very common. It's not, something specific to, well, there's no accountability or no responsibility here because they're just not practicing. That's not the case.
No. And look, here is what I will say. I understand. We understand why this fan base is as frustrated as they are. We also are frustrated. This is not fun. But what I will say, and pardon my language, and let's hope my mom is not listening, there is enough meat on this shit bone that is real, that we do not have to be upset about things that aren't there. We could spend days and days talking about the real things that are wrong with this team, and we do. That's our job. But let's not take something that isn't a thing and try to make it a thing because this team is failing and this is the problem. There's enough actual real problems with this team that have them where they are to talk about. We don't need to make things that aren't actually the issue. So we just wanted to clear up, that's what's real about optional skates, not just for the Nashville Predators, but in the NHL as well. So if you see that, and you feel outrage, remember feelings are like farts. It's an indicator of something. It indicates that this team is so disappointing right now and it is very frustrating. But it doesn't necessarily mean what you think it does. It doesn't mean that, again, they're not playing Fortnite. They're just not playing Fortnite, y'all. So
Yeah. You know who else is having optional skates? Winnipeg, Minnesota, you know, like Vegas,
Toronto. Yeah.
Vegas, Florida, Washington, Carolina, they're all having optional skates all the time.
All the time. So just want to free up some space for you. You don't have to blame this on the optional skate. Again, plenty of meat on the shit bone this season, friends. Chew on what's really there. Before we wrap up this absolutely inappropriate ending to this episode, Emma, I want you to tell everyone where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. Don't quote that I said shitbone because sometimes my mom checks my social media. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Emma and I are going to be back tomorrow to talk about this Toronto game tonight. We'll see you then.